I'm Alex James, broadcaster and presenter, and 10 years ago, I had a front row seat for one of the biggest musical success stories of all time.
Simon kind of called me and he was like, just trust me, come meet the contestants. We've got a special group.
A whole decade has now passed since 5 boys entered the X Factor audition rooms.
Every generation sort of needs their own boy bands, and that was the right time for them to come up and sort of claim to be the definitive boy band of their moment.
These boys would become One Direction, and One Direction would quickly become the biggest band in the world.
It's the sheer volume of the crowd when the music stops and the lights lower before they come on is deafening, but in the best way.
The creation of 1D sparked a reaction unlike anything that's come before, and during my time on air, I interviewed the group many, many times. So now, 10 years on from the summer in which One Direction were formed, I wanted to celebrate the story of their incredible success, and it's here for you to celebrate with me.
But their story and their success was very much a partnership with the fans, and I think everything that they were doing at that time, it was kind of presented in a way that it was in tandem with the fans to feel like a kind of, it was a shared success and a shared experience.
This is 10 years of One Direction. Episode 3, making the 1D Army. When I first started planning this podcast, I knew there was one group of people that needed to be central to this 10-year celebration of One Direction, and that is, of course, the fans, the Directioners, the 1D Army. They're the ones who've been out in force since those early days on the X Factor, devoted and committed to the cause, waving the flag and showing their love. And I think in every interview I did with One Direction, they never failed to always acknowledge the fans. Over the last few months, I've spent a lot of time chatting to 1D fans from around the globe, and it's incredible. The One Direction fandom reaches all corners of the world, and it happened so quickly. If you're in the UK when the group was formed on the X Factor, well, that was your introduction to the group. Here's Lily from the UK.
I think the very first time I ever saw One Direction was when they were on X Factor. I remember them all auditioning and then getting put together, and then ever since then, I've listened to them, and I haven't stopped listening to them.
But if you weren't in the UK, it was typically the power of word of mouth and social media and YouTube that brought them to you. This is Clara. She's in Spain.
I think I was 12 years old. I was quite young. Yeah, I found out about them because my best friend, she was a massive fan. And at the beginning, it was the trendy thing, so I didn't want to like them. But, one day I started checking them on YouTube and stuff, trying to give them a chance. And since then, I don't know the exact moment that it happened, but it just happened. And it was a point of no return. It just happened. And since then, I'm here right now. So
This is DJ in the Philippines.
So I think it was 2010. And then I saw their first performance on YouTube, the X Factor performance. So I think it was Coldplay's Viva La Vida. Yeah, and I'm a Coldplay fan. So I tried to check it out, and then I admit it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best song they did on the X Factor. And having lived in the Philippines, I don't know who they are because the X Factor is based in UK. But I started to check their other performances, and some were a hit and miss. And I think I just knew they were gonna make it. So I think it was 2011 when I first became officially a fan, and then hasn't stopped since then.
This is Margaret in Australia.
Well, I first heard about One Direction in 2012, I think it was, through their One Thing music video. I don't know if you heard or know that Nickelodeon had this thing where they would play music videos with the lyrics along the bottom of the screen. So it was kind of like a karaoke sing-along. All my sisters and I just got up and just started dancing along and trying to sing along with the lyrics every time it played. And yeah, that's just my first memory of One Direction.
Here's Eleanor from France.
Well, I discovered them around October 2010 for their Halloween Halloween episode of X Factor, and I saw them on the TV and I was like, whoa, who are they? So I searched on YouTube and found all their video diaries, and I literally fell in love with all of them because they were so funny and entertaining. So yes, since 10 years now, I'm a big fan of them.
And here's Jenna in the UK. And I love this story so much. Jenna's introduction to the boys might be one of the most unique that I've heard through making this podcast.
What happened was I really wanted to go to my first concert because at the time I was 11, just nearly turning 12, and I really wanted to go to a concert. So I looked who was touring in Birmingham because that's the only place my parents would take me, and One Direction were. So I said to my mum, can we go and see them? And she was like, yeah, we can try and see them, but like I don't know whether you're going to like a concert, it might not be your sort of thing, but yeah, we'll get high up seats and just go. So we went to see them just because they were on, not because they're One Direction, just because they were the only people performing, and the rest was history. That whole year they were touring like throughout the rest of the Take Me Home tour, and I'd literally get home and I'd look in my bedroom and I'd say, Mum, can I sell this? Can I sell this? Like trying to raise money for more tickets. My birthday that year when I turned 12, I said, please don't get me any presents, please just get me a One Direction ticket. Like I was desperate to go, and my mum came with me, and then she got a little bit bored, so my dad took me to 2 as well, and then on their final one, we managed to grab VIP tickets, which was amazing.
I love it. First gig, and it's One Direction, and the rest for Jenna is history. The rise of the 1D Army through the internet and social media is one of the first examples of this kind of fan base rallying on these platforms. And it helped fans everywhere mobilise and chat to each other and find their fellow fans. And this online community has helped DJ in the Philippines find new friends all over the world.
So yeah, I've joined Twitter with a One Direction related account around 2011, and it's an understatement to say that I've met a lot of people, whether Filipino or different people all over the globe. I actually got to speak the languages that I speak, like with French, with Spanish, even some German. And then we have different cultures, but when it comes to supporting this band, I think, I don't know, it's universal, I guess, because I get to talk to people who understand, like a group of people who understand how I feel, and then they wouldn't judge me for it in a way. So yeah, during concerts, I've met these fans, and then I have them until now. And then, but the thing I love the most about this fandom is like the fierce loyalty, because 1D has been like not around for how many years now? Like since 2015 as well. And even as solo artists, I see them on Twitter still, like the fans, they're still like support them individually. They will always be a 5-piece. And then, yeah, we believe that none of them deserves hate for making their own music. And then we know that if any of the boys are being misjudged, we'd fight for them to death, hyperbolically speaking.
For the fans, it makes the world a smaller place, and being any kind of fan forms part of who you are. It becomes an identity and a hobby. You can find comfort and solace in it and the group, artist or celebrity that you gravitate towards. They often help you find a purpose and a place in the world. This is Lizette in California telling me how she fell for One Direction.
I was trying not to be charmed, but I couldn't help it, much like so many people couldn't help it either. And I kind of was done after that, like done with my sanity and done with trying to be too cool for pop. They seemed to be just having so much fun together. Like every time I watched a video diary that they did on like X Factor or After, or even a clip from a live performance, I felt like I was a fly on the wall just watching friends or brothers hang out. And it made me feel like I was like a part of something that was just like pure joy, because I was in high school, and as many people have experienced, that is not pure joy. So it was just their ability to just have fun and laugh with each other and just make stupid jokes, but still like being very talented and caring so much about their fans.
For Eleanor and her fellow fans Clara, Kal-El, Aidan and Sarah, being in the 1D Army helped them connect with new people around the world. And when they wanted to understand exactly what One Direction were laughing and joking about during interviews, the girls started to learn English.
But it's the thing that they grow up, and we grow up with them. So we saw them growing up, and they didn't saw us growing up, but, you know, we just continued to grow with them, and we met a lot of friends because of them. We, like just Kal-El said, we discovered a lot of countries. Well, now we're talking English because of them.
Yes.
So we learn a lot about ourselves and other people and other culture when we, traveling for them. So yeah, and I think I talk for everyone when I say that we see ourselves in their music. Either it's the group music or solo music, we all see each other's in the lyrics.
So you say you are genuinely telling me that you wouldn't speak the amazing English you speak if it wasn't for One Direction?
Yeah.
I started being a fan of them, and I was like, I need to understand what they say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it was so funny. Like, it was not just the music. You had all the stupid video they were doing and everything, and we were like, I need to understand what they say because.
So we learn English.
And the funny thing is that we didn't just learn English, we learned accent because Niall is Irish and he had a full accent. And Louis too, that is from north of England. There's a full accent, and we learn every accent possible.
Those girls all moved from France and now live and work in London. And if you're still not convinced about how important One Direction are to their fans, Jenna sums it up perfectly for me.
I'll always respect the boys for their time in One Direction, and I'll always love them all for making me so happy and making my childhood, because honestly, I don't know where I'd be without them. Like, I honestly don't. I wasn't a popular girl in high school, and they gave me a guide in life, like to save up for the concerts and to go and see them was my only motivation at times, and their music really got me through, and so I'll always thank them all.
All right, let's get a bit deeper. Fandoms are a fascinating place. They can mobilise quickly online. They've got the power to aid success, and they provide a centre for like-minded fans. I've witnessed firsthand Directioners outside the radio studios when the boys were in for interviews. And I've seen them screaming outside hotels where 1D was staying, and how loud they can be at gigs. Seriously, very, very loud. James Robinson was the producer of my radio show during the One Direction era.
So I guess the kind of overriding memory for me is how big and powerful their fan base was, because when they first came in, I remember they did an interview, and it's when it first struck me because there were so many people waiting outside, screaming at the bus as it drove in. And they were in the building for a little while. It was a live interview, so there for a few hours, and the crowd just got bigger and bigger. And I remember it was filmed by, I think it was Ben Winston,
yes.
who is now Mr. James Corden and inventor of carpool karaoke. And he was documenting the whole thing. And I remember watching the video back of the boys leaving at the end of it, and the crowd was just huge. And there's a girl in the video going, Harry Styles, and he's like, yeah, Harry Styles. And at that point I was like, all right, well, maybe Harry is the kind of the favorite one. But yeah, the kind of fan power from the word go was really surprising to me at that point, because that was, 2011?
Whenever One Direction came on my radio show, you felt the full force of the fan base. The fans outside, of course, but of course the fans who were tuning in as well. And if you think of it like this for a moment, if you're a One Direction fan who's maybe just turned 20, then you would have just turned 10 when the group first formed. There's a big difference between being 10 years old and 20 years old, isn't there? Maybe for some, being a Directioner was, to quote, just a phase. But for the fans that I've spoken to whilst making this podcast, it's so much more. It's a lifestyle and a commitment, and it's about being part of a community and finding an extended family. Lizette in California told me about how the fan base has enabled Directioners to discover who they are as people.
High school could be rough. It was very rough. I played sports, so I had some friends through that, but mostly I wouldn't talk to anyone in my high school. And I hated school so much that sometimes I would skip class, especially math, to go on Twitter and Tumblr to talk about the boys and tweet at them and look at pictures of them. And like I said, I'm a creative writer now. I'm getting my master's. I actually started writing the most when I gained footing in the world of fan fiction. And funnily enough, I gained a following and was so dedicated to it that I started skipping some more algebra classes to write in the locker room. I ended up going to a good college, and now I'm in grad school, so I do not regret skipping math class. I am not ever going to use math in the way that they were trying to teach me to. And I'm so grateful for the fandom, just having people who understand what it's like to feel like they don't belong anywhere else, and a place that fosters creativity like it did for me. We don't have just writers, we have artists. We have so many beautiful paintings or drawings or digital art about the boys, and we have lots of musical covers of songs by the boys or original songs about the boys, and I think that's so beautiful that people really find their passion through being passionate about a group like One Direction.
And for Clara in Spain, the fandom helped her discover the world outside her hometown of Cadiz.
Yeah, it was like being an international fan at the beginning was quite hard, because we were so young. We didn't get like proper 2 dates. So it was like you have to convince your parents that this is my only chance to see them. Like traveling around Spain is quite expensive. So yeah, it was like you get to meet like a lot of Spanish fans who are in the same situation as you. So you kind of create like a family of Spanish fans.
Tell me about that family. What's it like? How many new people have you met and how many people are there?
I mean, I have like 100. Well, yeah, I think I have like so many friends made on Twitter, and like not only Spanish fans, but international fans. I have fans like friends in every single continent thanks to them. Like I have friends in America, friends in Australia, in the UK. It's like so good because you get to meet so many people that you would have never met if it wasn't for them. And I have a group of friends. I met them all through One Direction on Twitter, and then I got these girls together in a group, and we have went to like so many concerts together. We were planning to go to Louis tour and Harry tour together, but it got suspended. But we do so many plans together, and we kind of like got some new best friends to travel with and to share those feelings and experience with.
And the more I've spoken and connected with Directioners around the world, the more I've grown intrigued by what motivates them. Loving the music, feeling a spark with the boys, enjoying their gigs. These things all play a part, but it runs so much deeper. And in most of my conversations, the word family came up a lot. Dr. Jennifer Otter-Bickerdike is an author and rock and roll historian. And having worked with some of the world's biggest record labels and music stars, Jennifer knows a thing or two about what makes fans tick and what they're seeking.
They're looking for community, but they're also looking to underpin their own identity and get some sort of validation that the things that they're into are okay and cool. So it isn't necessarily about the band or the celebrity. It's more about the social and sociological functions that it provides.
Most of the time, for the majority of the fans, being able to see the boys live, follow their music and wear a t-shirt with their faces on will often be enough. But for some fans, that's not enough. When I spoke to One Direction songwriter Savan Kotecha, he recalled how crowds of fans would quickly find out where the boys were staying or recording, and things would escalate very, very quickly.
There was like 3,000 girls outside every single day knowing that they were there. The missing persons reports in Sweden skyrocketed, and every morning the cops would be around on the street and around the area looking at all the girls comparing it to photos of missing person reports, because girls were sneaking out from all parts of Sweden to sleep on the streets just to get a glimpse of them. It was wild. I mean, I just had my first baby during the second album, and I remember like fans were like following me home because they recognized me from the show, and like sneaking into my building and like throwing notes down the letterbox and ringing the doorbell, and my wife had just got the baby to sleep and like, oh my God, tell them to stop,
This is a frenzy in play, and this is the kind of thing that it leads to.
There was some scary stuff. I mean, listen, during that second album especially, there were people sneaking on the balcony of I think it was Liam's hotel room. I remember a girl, there was like a courtyard in this building in Stockholm where the recording studio was, and there were apartments, it was a building with like apartments above it and stuff like that, and some girl jumped this huge, really tall wall, broke into an apartment of one of the women that lived in that building, and her kitchen window oversaw the courtyard. She broke into the apartment by breaking the glass of a window with her fist. So this woman comes home from work and she sees a trail of blood all the way leading to her kitchen, and this young teenage girl is just frozen, staring out the window, trying to get a glimpse of the boys, and she's bleeding like crazy from her wrist because she just punched through a window, and the cops had to drag her out of there, kicking and screaming. I mean, this was like, and I can't even imagine what it's like for the boys for that to have gone on, constantly, it's probably not it's not a normal human existence, being that famous. So
what pushes fans to these extreme moments? Back to our fan expert, Jennifer.
They want to be noticed or acknowledged by either that entity, whether it's one of the guys in One Direction or it's some other celebrity that's in the building, because that will, again, be putting that thing about identity and meaning of self. If they're acknowledged that they exist, that will kind of, there's something about that. It's almost like, a religious figure saying you're a good person. It kind of brings them to another level of exaltation. So and you really see that a lot with fans. Like, why do you write a fan letter? Because why do you try to tweet with these people on social media? But there was definitely that component of wanting to be seen, wanting to be acknowledged, that I think is a huge part of the phenomena with One Direction. And what's weird about it, it's not really even about the people. It's not really about the individuals in the band. It's more about, I think, just that being seen of someone that you see as higher than yourself, if that makes any sense. Because if you think about it, if you go back to like traditional religion, it's that same sort of thing. Like, why are you on your knees praying? Why are you begging God for this, that, or the other? It's like you want to be seen and acknowledged. One of the really kind of interesting things that you see this as technology and the internet starts allowing us to be further and further connected over larger and larger spaces. You have the traditional religion. So people going into, and I'm talking about Western religion, so I'm talking Judaism and Christianity of various kinds.
Yeah.
You have people attending churches and synagogues sharply falling, to the point that as of the last time I saw statistic, which wasn't that recent, it was like 2018, 7 churches or synagogues in the United States are closing every single week because of lack of attendees, and the attendees are dying off as people get older. They die, no new people are taking it up. Now you may be like, what does that have to do with it? Well, before, those girls or people that would be fans, they didn't have that outlet of the internet and the entity of the celebrity to focus on. They may go to a church group. That might be where they're finding their community. They might be finding like the ideas and ethos and values that would be coming from church and family. And now it's coming from the computer instead. So you see this really definite, if you look at a graph of these two statistics, they are parallel to each other. And I think that you can't, the rise of celebrity culture comes the way it's been a huge take up in it since the internet, in terms of how important it is to us.
From day one, it was important for each member of the group to shine in their own special way. And in much the same way that the Spice Girls all had their nicknames reflecting their own unique personalities, Harry, Liam, Louis, Niall and Zayn were all different in their own right. Music journalist Natalie Jameson remembers how they defined themselves at the start.
As someone who has been fortunate to interview One Direction on a number of occasions, from sit-down interviews to chatting to them at movie premieres or the Brit Awards or a variety of places, I think it was really interesting how quite quickly they all developed into their own roles within the group. So after the kind of initial burst and flourish of success, where they would all be quite even and sort of all talking at the same time and have the same amount of conversation that they'd want to have, you would quite quickly move into a territory where it became clear that Zayn didn't ever really want to chat very much. He didn't appear to be comfortable in those interview situations. Harry and Liam would be the sensible ones, if you like. They would give you considered answers to questions that you would ask, whereas then Louis and Niall would often be the ones messing about and not ruining the conversation, but definitely disrupting it.
And Jennifer believes it's these aspirational personality traits that help the fans connect even more.
I worked with NSYNC and I worked with Backstreet Boys, which I think is a good kind of similar kind of thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And like, I really thought that Backstreet Boys was much more real, and like, I really liked Nick Carter and Backstreet Boys. But if you look at kind of at any of these groups, the fundamentals are kind of the same. There's like the bad boy, the good, the kind of the good one, the kind of crazy one. Like there's definitely like a recipe for making up these bands. So in terms of which one that you're into, I think it has to do with which kind of these different characters within the band and what the whole philosophy the band's marketed to you as. What do those things kind of strike you and you see yourself in those things? I think that's what makes you connect with it the most. You're not necessarily doing that on like a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. I think that's what's happening in a lot of ways.
I think Directioner Lizette has the perfect message that would be echoed by all past and present and future members of the 1D Army.
Overall, just so grateful for One Direction. They've brought me lifelong friends, some of whom I've met cross-country, some that I may never meet in real life, but it doesn't matter because we're always going to be there supporting each other on like Twitter and stuff like that. So thank you, One Direction. Thank you, Harry, Louis, Niall, Liam, and Zayn. Yeah.
And through it all, Directioners should know that they were always seen and appreciated. And every time I spoke to the boys and interviewed them, had them on the radio show, the respect was there. They knew how much the fans mattered to them, and they never, ever took that for granted. On the next episode of 10 Years of One Direction, making the brand. How the world's biggest band became one of the world's biggest brands.
But their story and their success was very much a partnership with the fans, and I think everything that they were doing at that time, it was kind of presented in a way that it was in tandem with the fans to feel like a kind of, it was a shared success and a shared experience.
If you get the chance to subscribe and leave a rating, that would be amazing. And if you want to share your One Direction memories from 10 years ago or from 10 minutes ago, I'm on social media @ThisIsAlexJames.